Can the partnerships between the private and public stakeholders offer a way out or a lasting solution to the agriculture sector in Kenya? Join us as we discuss what these partnerships mean and how they affect agriculture development on all fronts across the board. Follow the discussion on all our social media platforms. Transform Kenya. Empower our nation. Brought to you by Farm Kenya in partnership with Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, Micro-Enterprises Support Program Trust and Agriculture Sector Network.
Welcome back. You've been watching Transform Kenya. Even as we focus on public-private partnerships, the role they have to play in transforming the agricultural sector, and some interesting sentiments being shared by panelists on this very important subject of discussion. Well, we want to take a few more questions from our viewers, and then we shall be getting some responses from our panelists. And let me take and sample some of your questions that you are asking to our panelists. Well, there's a question here where someone is asking, how can smallholder farmers, wakulima wadogo, take advantage of PPPs? Another one is also asking, how can I, as a farmer, access PPPs in my county? There's also another question on regulation. Someone is asking, what regulations exist in the country that either hinder or promote PPPs in agriculture? Perhaps we can take those first three questions. And let me bring in Professor Ntiba, PS, just to also give us your views on this very important subject.
Yeah. Agina, just before we went for break, I wanted to say a few words about the question that was asked by Brenda. You know, the whole idea that agriculture is involved and so on and so forth. I was out in the counties the other day, and one of the things I keep on reminding Kenyans, when we are in a Kilimo house at the ministry, you don't find, practical agriculture there. So mostly, government is involved in developing policy and strategies, which then the entire country will, like, say, for example, if it is for maize, we don't want to have, not one policy on maize. If it is about dairy farming, we don't want to have each country having its different policy, because it is about dairy in the country. When it comes to fisheries, we would like to have one law and then different strategies to be able to achieve what we wanted to achieve. So agriculture, private sector, all actions take place in the counties. We only support in policy and the policy formulation, policy review, if it requires to be reviewed and things like that. We also want to have information from the entire country, from the counties, so that we have one information base to assist us to plan for agriculture. We wouldn't be a stable country if we are having bits and pieces of information everywhere. So I think we from the ministry would like to get proper information for planning purposes, recognizing that in Treasury, there is the State Department of Planning. So it is very important we have one information base for the entire country. In terms of quality control, say for example, when we are exporting fruits, if fruits get to another country and they are in trouble, that equation stops from being a county equation where the fruits came from. It starts taking the dimension of, it is the nation of Kenya. You see what I mean? I remember there was a time in Lake Victoria, there was a problem with the fish. Now, when fish then arrives in Europe and there is trouble, it stops from being Lake Victoria fish. It stops from being Lake Turkana fish. It stops from being Lamu fish. It becomes a national issue. And that's why we have laboratories, like, we have CAFEs. Right now, we are also developing 3 very sophisticated laboratories for control of fish quality for ourselves and the fish going abroad. We have the headquarters, the referral lab for fishes in Nairobi. We have a similar branch in Kisumu and Mombasa. You see, these types of things, research. It will be important that we have one research system in the entire agriculture system in the country. And that's why we have CARO. That's why we have the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute to be able to assist the country in being to develop new knowledge moving forward and so on and so forth. And the other thing is also about resources. Financing agriculture from the state budgets also becomes a little tricky sometimes, and that's why we work with development partners, with multinationals, with World Bank, with the International Fund for Agricultural Development, so that we can bring those resources here. And when they come, they work with the counties. I think I wanted to refer to this question.
Make it brief so that we can also get the other panelists to comment. We are running out of time.
Well, I wanted to say that because it is very important, so that we have one country, one system, one production system moving forward. I thought I needed to indicate that again.
Thank you so much, PS. And Mr. Osure, you were nodding at the PS as he was making his points on some of the key issues like regulation and some of the questions that have been asked that very many of our viewers are feeling that farmers still do not understand how to access PPPs.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think from the questions we've seen on the board, somebody asked about how government or regulations can give advantage or can provide access into getting into business. I call it getting into business farming. One is that the regulations like on seed multiplication has been opened up by the Kenya Plant Health Inspection Services in partnership with CALRO. Farmers now easily get around the challenges and the costs which are created because of the time in planning. So the regulations now are much more friendlier, and the farmers are able to now invest. Secondly, the county agriculture officers have this information because we are seeing more and more of them calling in and asking, can you partner with us? The second side of it, smallholder farmers now actually have taken advantage in that. And I can quote a specific case we've seen in Nyandarua County, where a young lady who is 23 years old is supplying a group of farmers who are, because of the scale, and she's now earning about 600,000 shillings per sense of supply. And this is because of the scale of the activities and the way she has utilized the local systems that have been set up by the counties. So in both senses, we can quote this because we have two units within the Syngenta Foundation who are driving this, and that's the Seeds Unit and the Farmer Support Services Unit, which we call Agri-Services, who keep on providing access to new seeds and link them up into credit partnerships. And this has now come to show what is going on. Mm-hmm. And the last one in Nakuru County, again, a case whereby a group of farmers have sold 350 bags of 90 kilo seed, which translates to about 18 tons. And each of those kilos has about 80 shillings or 88 shillings if you calculate it. And these are benefits that now we can quote and physically touch. And we are sure that there are many other stories that are going on across the county that we don't have. So, all right. Thank you.
Dr. Bimal, how do we attract the youth to be enticed to PPPs?
So it's one of those very important questions, how to bring youth back into agriculture. There's amongst the youth that agriculture was as, my parents did it in the village, so I'm too cool to do agriculture.
Oh, yes.
So let me tell you how we want to do it at policy level. The Ministry of Agriculture came out with their master document, blueprint called the ASTGS. It's called the Agriculture Sector Growth and Transformation Strategy. And in it, it talks about public-private partnerships. So what they're suggesting, even at county level, through the Agriculture Transformation Office, the ATO, they want to have private sector part of the county government agriculture committee, along with the CEC of agriculture. There's a private sector player and a CEC in a committee with a youth representative. So what they try to do with this ASTGS, which is the main policy at Kilimo House, is to bring private sector into county government level through the ATO, the Agriculture Transformation Office. And we as ASNET have been pushing rapidly for this county government committees, PPPs, to be formed as quickly as possible. And I'm very happy to say CS Bunia and particularly CS PS Professor Boga has been quite enthusiastic about bringing it to county level, where we will connect the youth, the private sector ASNET representative, along with the CEC of agriculture, so that if we form at county level a strong PPP where we can attract investment into the county, we can bring in new technologies. And I think that document, ASTGS, I think every serious farmer in this country needs to read it. It's a wonderful document. We need to operationalize it. And ASNET's main strategy is to get this ASTGS as fast as possible implemented at county level, including the youth. So we also have a youth department now at ASNET. And we're bringing in very smart young people into agriculture. And again, I want to tell you, agriculture value chain is huge. It's not necessarily about the actual farming. It's not about the limaing. It's about the transportation of produce. It's about the marketing of produce. It's about the IT side of agriculture. It's about the marketing, sales. So the value chain of agriculture is huge. And at every stage, youth can take an active role. If youth don't want to go and do farming themselves, they can talk about marketing of agricultural produce. They can talk about sales of agricultural produce. They have IT systems. Can they do apps in agriculture? So there's so much in agriculture you can do. It's where your specialty is, where your keenness is. And that's why we're very keen to bring the youth into agriculture again.
All right. And Madam Rebecca, we also want to get your views on this as we get your closing remarks. I can see time is running out. Make it brief.
Thank you very much. Kindly allow me to comment on the smallholder farmers.
Oh, yeah.
And
Please
how
proceed.
they can be able to access PPPs. Basically, for smallholder farmers, given the disadvantages that smallholder farmers have, they are disintegrated, they have access to small pieces of land, and therefore their production is generally very, very low. What we encourage farmers to do is to engage with, to join cooperatives, to form farmer associations, to form cluster groups, aggregation groups, where they can be able to aggregate their commodities and be able to access services like markets and credit. I'll give you an example of a cooperative in Olenguruoni that is involved in chilling of milk. What we've done with this cooperative, we've worked with this cooperative first to provide business development services and to be able to empower them on various aspects of business. And on top of that, we have accessed, we've provided loans to them. And through the loans that we have provided to this cooperative has been able to procure assets, cooling facilities that they now use to aggregate milk from the smallholder farmers. And through the aggregation process, the large milk processors like Brookside and KCC are able to buy milk from this particular cooperative. If this particular cooperative didn't exist, it wouldn't have been easier for smallholder farmers to access market for their milk. And because of this opportunity that the cooperative has created for them, farmers are able to access other services through the cooperative that they wouldn't have accessed before without, being in these aggregation groups. So I would encourage smallholder farmers to identify existing cooperatives, existing farmer association, aggregation groups within their communities and see what kind of commodities they are engaged in and what kind of arrangements that exist within these communities that they can be able to tap into. Coming to the youth, I think I'm one advocate of young people getting involved in agribusiness, and the opportunities in the agricultural sectors are enormous. They're huge. And just as one of the speakers has mentioned, getting involved in agriculture doesn't necessarily mean getting involved in the actual digging of the land. There are lots of opportunities in logistics, there are opportunities in IT, development of applications that we can be able to use to access skills, to access knowledge, village to access credit, by in the comfort of our sitting room. There are opportunities in mechanization. There's quite a lot of drudgery within the agricultural sector, and youth can play a role by providing various services in the agricultural sector that are beneficial both to the smallholder farmers, to the private sector, and even to themselves, and that can contribute significantly to their incomes. So opportunities within the agricultural sectors are huge, and what we need to do is to just open the scope and be able to contribute and tap into these opportunities.
All right. Thank you so much, Madam Rebecca. And ladies and gentlemen, unfortunately, we've come to the tail end of this great discussion. Quite a lot of issues to discuss, but limited time. But we have been able to prosecute quite a number of issues as well, even as we continue to receive your feedback from our different platforms here on Transform Kenya. And indeed, the future for public-private partnerships looks very promising from what I've heard from our panelists this evening. And we do hope that these issues will be implemented by the various actors in the value chains, that is the private sector, the government, and of course ensuring that at the end of it all, the farmer benefits. This has been Transform Kenya, airing on both KTN News and KTN Farmers TV, and I have been your host, Abi Agina. Do enjoy the rest of your viewing. See you next time.
Keep the conversation going on our social media platforms as we carry on about the importance of partnerships between public and private stakeholders to the Kenyan agricultural sector. Transform Kenya. Empower our nation. Brought to you by Farm Kenya in partnership with Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Syngenta Foundation for Sustainable Agriculture, Micro-Enterprises Support Program Trust and Agriculture Sector Network.
This is KTN News.